So today we have something that's actually extremely substantial on Mr. Beast. This isn't like the Lunchable ripoff situation where everyone's whining about kids eating unhealthily, but then McDonald's exists with their Happy Meals. This is actually substantial because Mr. Beast is getting sued. Now, the exact amount is unknown. I mean, the document kind of leaves it up in the air. It says like, what the court decides is proper repercussions. There are some figures going around, but I don't think any of them are reputable by any means. Some people are saying 5 million, but they don't really have a source on that. They kind of just said it, and I don't think I can really trust them. But anyway, I think since these have released and there's an actual complaint document, that we need to go through this and see exactly what is being alleged in this document. What essentially Mr. Beast is getting sued with. Keep in mind, these haven't gone through yet. We don't necessarily know how many of these claims are valid, and a vast majority of this is alleged, so just keep that in mind. So the first thing argued against Mr. Beast in this document: contestants engaged in what appeared to be a thorough application and vetting process for Beast games. Yet, despite this apparent thorough application process, it is allegedly claimed by Rosanna Pansino, cited in this document as a Twitter post, that a contestant named Armani Izzati was present, and he apparently has charges involving 20 counts for battery, kidnapping, pandering, pimping, and robbery. He pled guilty to pimping charge and acknowledged the significant evidence against him. He allegedly slept near female contestants before being kicked off the set for his inappropriate behavior. He's also, we've seen this guy before. This is also a friend of Jake Paul. If this is true, unlike the Delaware situation where some people are saying that, you know, maybe Jimmy Beast didn't know. In this situation, it is stating that there was a thorough application and vetting process. So if he got within the Mr. Beast games, there's really no defending that. The second argument is blocked out for privacy or some other reason. So we're not able to tell what the full extent of the claim is, but we can tell is that the second claim does involve some form of contestant agreement. As it says, the contestant agreement that the contestants entered into with production defendants included, and then the rest of it's blanked. And we're going to see this redaction a lot in this document because a lot of it's taken out for privacy reasons of the victims. Keep that in mind. The third argument claims that contestants should be considered employees under California law, but defendants, those running Beast Games production, intentionally misclassified them to gain economic advantage. It then goes into examples of why they should be considered as employees. The contestants were not volunteers. The contestants were promised and received compensation in exchange for their services. The work was not for a charitable cause, nor was it unpaid. They were hired as contestants, but in reality were essential labor components for the entertainment production. And while these claims are significantly blocked out, causing us to not truly know the extent of them, I do believe there are a couple of important parts we should note. It says, while they were working for defendants, they would not be able to accept any other employment. And defendants compensated the contestants throughout the course of Beast Games with both in-kind compensation as well as cash compensation. I think this is important because saying to participate you cannot take other forms of employment and also paying them, I mean, that seems like a job to me, but we'll have to see what California law says about this. I'm not a lawyer. Take my opinion on that with a grain of salt. The third argument was contestants had no autonomy. Defendants exercised complete control, and it argues that Mr. Beast Games production controlled every aspect of their contestants' lives. It then lists examples. In the first part, the examples are redacted, but there are 7 examples, so I'm sure that's telling of something, the fact that they needed to include 7 examples of them allegedly over-exercising their power on contestants. You can take what you will from that. It says defendants further required plaintiffs to dedicate all their time to production during the production period, requiring them to miss work if they have jobs, which is just kind of a restatement of what they said earlier. Something about access to personal belongings, actively supervised by production staff around the clock without any privacy. We cannot claim for certain what the second one says due to the redaction, but the next one says control over meals. The defendants controlled when, where, and what the contestants, and then it's redacted again. But right after the redaction portion, it states the limited sustenance that defendants provided afforded an unreasonable and insufficient caloric intake, which collectively and in a uniform manner endangered welfare of contestants. So it seems like if this is true, Mr. Beast has a history of not treating food very well. Lunchly is so bad. Anyway, the next part, control over sleeping arrangements. Defendants controlled where, how, and whether contestants slept, which is important. If this allegation is true, it would imply that they controlled where Armani Izzati would be sleeping, which would then include the relativity to those women that was in that claim. The next one, control over medications and recreational substances, basically meaning that they distributed them. Exposed to dangerous conditions, cites local news, which states many contestants found it was the poor set conditions rather than the challenges themselves that proved to be the main difficulty, and also claims that contestants were penned in closed spaces with redacted under conditions where they were underfed, overtired, redacted, and competing in stressful and exhausting challenges for a cash prize that could change their lives. What does suck is the underfed and overtired part. Every other condition was fine, then I wouldn't really care about the challenges they're competing in that could change their lives. I mean, that's really like, that's the point of the show. That's why it's so interesting. 'Cause if they end up winning this, then they win so much money. But considering they were underfed, overtired, all that stuff, that's what really makes it inhumane. I feel like some of those people would have wanted to leave, but because the cash prize would have been so big, that's why they didn't. So they probably put themselves through a lot of stuff that they wouldn't otherwise. And then the next claim, on top of that, on information and belief, there was insufficient medical staff to attend to potential and actual injuries during the production, which is not good considering it's already been stated that Mr. Beast basically made you sign off. If you got injured, you couldn't sue him for it. If you're gonna make them sign on that and also not provide proper medical care, that's like terrible if this is true. The final part for this section, contractual control, is heavily redacted, but we are able to see it involves unenforceable adhesion, contestant agreement, unconscionable agreement, unlawfully prohibits the contestants. You can make your own assumptions about that. I'm not going to make any claims on what that means. You can decide for yourself. The next argument in this complaint, defendants misclassified the contestants, redacted, to avoid their employment obligations under California law and wrongfully receive unearned tax credits from Nevada. The most important part of this section, defendants later required that contestants completed redacted, suggesting they intend to write off contestants' wages as expenses, fudging the true labor costs by labeling the contestants redacted to obtain state Nevada tax credit, saving money on employment, wages, benefits, and employment taxes by misclassifying contestants and deducting the contestant labor expenses after the fact. This is important because that means after all the money that Mr. Beast has, all that massive, unending money, the first YouTube billionaire, bro, and he's still like treating people terribly with his money, if true. Like, that's crazy. Who could care about money to this extent? Even if he didn't mistreat them, he would still be making a hell of a profit. He has so much money. The next argument, defendants required the contestants to sign an unconscionable agreement with illegal and unenforceable terms. This section was somewhat covered in one of the previous sections, but essentially argues that Beast Games Productions use their power to impose terms and conditions that are deemed unlawful under California law. The rest of the section is heavily redacted, so as of now, we cannot determine the extent of this alleged violation. The next section argues defendants failed to provide a safe and healthful place of employment to the particular and collective detriment of the female contestants who allegedly suffered sexual harassment. And within the section, it argues they violated labor law codes, they did not provide food or drink, they did not have adequate medical staff on site, they forced them to not sleep, and they forced them to participate in games that unreasonably risk physical and mental injury. And the final part of the section, the production defendants additionally created a toxic and hostile work environment for, in particular, female contestants who suffered redacted, as well as sexual harassment throughout the production. And allegedly, the production noticed and allowed this to occur. The rest of the section is heavily redacted, so it's hard to determine what exactly this section is saying, but it's most likely for anonymity of the victim. The next argument, defendants made multiple false statements to the contestants in connection with Beast Games prior to the start of the competition. Defendants falsely advertised that the competition would have 1,000 contestants redacted and cut the odds of winning redacted. And then this is just like a little promotion thing that's kind of showing what they're claiming. And the very final argument of this whole thing, Beast Games production was so void of standards of reasonable care that Mr. Beast allegedly offered to cover contestants' therapy, allegedly saying that Mr. Beast and the production were aware of the severe stress caused by the way the show was conducted, that they offered therapy sessions using their own insurance. And then they include a little YouTube image about that, someone claiming that. This sums up the lawsuit on Mr. Beast. The rest of the lawsuit essentially specifically defines terms used and specific claims being made by the lawsuit, which is basically just a bunch of legal work that the layman would not understand, so I'm not going to cover that in this video. But it's important to note that if this does end up earning them some type of money, I feel like that would substantiate some of the previous claims, if not completely, impartial, just because we know that they would have a history with some of this stuff. But I just wanted to cover the important parts of this lawsuit in depth, because we both know most people are not going to read through that whole thing, but it's important to know what exactly is being brought against the Beast Games production team. If anyone's confused about the situation, make sure to share this around, get some more eyes on it, because this is probably like the most substantial thing brought against Mr. Beast, considering it's within the actual legal system. But I'll see you guys in the next one.